Gold Sheet has been the industry standard for providing NFL and college football betting information for the last 6 decades. WagerTalk is very proud to have acquired the Gold Sheet 3 years ago, and we took what was already an iconic product and made it even better. Get the football Gold Sheet for the entire season for only $129 by heading to goldsheet.com. Gold Sheet game write-ups are among the best in the industry, and we've now combined them with detailed statistical analysis in an easy-to-read, game-to-game format. Early bird pricing expires at midnight on Sunday, August 14th. Sign up now at goldsheet.com to subscribe for the entire NFL and college football season at less than $5 per issue. Don't miss out.
Happy Friday, everybody. Friday starts the weekend, and we are here to make your weekend a profitable one through the props betting market. I am Andy Lang with WagerTalk.com. Joining me, as always, my fellow prop masters, Matt Josephs from SportsMemo.com, Andrew McInnis from WagerTalk.com. We got a loaded show for everyone. We got our prop bet of the week coming up at the end. We're also going to talk some UFC. We're going to talk some college football. Andrew's going to grace us with some of his tennis knowledge. He's on an incredible tennis run. And we're going to get to some of the lowest team total wins in the NFL. That's right. We're going to be scraping the bottom of the barrel. We each have picked a bad team with a low win total, and we're going to see if we can talk ourselves into playing any over on any of these teams. Should be pretty tough, but we got a great show for everyone. A couple things out there. I mentioned Andrew's tennis run. Andrew's on an 18-2 tennis run, which is nothing short of insane. 3-1 CFL, a 5% run, and Andrew, number 2 handicapper on WagerTalk. So congratulations on that, Andrew. All of his plays can be found at WagerTalk.com. Matt Joseph still has college football special up, guys. If you want one of the best in the business of college football, go grab that. Use the promo code CFB200. That's CFB200. Get you $200 off college football season. Matt already has a 5% play, so if you use the promo code and get the full season, you're going to start off with a 5% play. Use plus 36 units in 2021. Go grab that. That's at sportsmemo.com. For myself, we still got a promo code for a 30-day pass. Just use the promo code WIN150, WIN150. Gets $150 off a 30-day pass. Continue to be the number 1 handicapper since March 1st. All sports, we got 5% UFC, 4% UFC, 5% NFL, all that. That can be found at WagerTalk.com. All right, gentlemen, we've talked the good, which is the things we're good at. Let's talk the bad, which are some of these bad NFL teams. So our mission this week, we each picked a bad team with a low team total. We're going to dissect them. Andrew, coming to you first, you actually took one of maybe the worst team, the Falcons. You went with the Houston Texans. So give us a bit about the Houston Texans. What's their win total, and what do you expect for them this year?
Yeah, so Andy, when we decided to do this topic, you think about what I did last week with the Falcons, and I'm following it up with a team that's going to be just around the same ballpark here with the Houston Texans. So as you can tell, I think the bad teams are going to be very bad this year. I'm on the under 4.5 wins this year for the Houston Texans. And a couple reasons why. First one I'll start off by saying, Andy, is that I simply think that they didn't make that many improvements and upgrades, and the people around them really did. If you take a look at their wins last year, only getting a handful of them, and 2 of those wins coming against the Jacksonville Jaguars, who I think got better, upgraded at several key positions. And of course, as Matt would like to tell us, any coach was better than what they were dealing with last year in the locker room. So they upgraded, and again, they only scored 25 points a couple of times last year. 2 of the times the Texans scored 25 points at least were against the Jacksonville Jags. So really, unless they're playing the Jags, guys, this is a really, really bad team. And the Jacksonville Jaguars are very well improved. So you take a look at last season for them. They were the 30th ranked offense and the 27th ranked defense in the National Football League. And again, their wins last year coming against Jacksonville, Tennessee, and the Chargers, catching them in some pretty flat spots there. But again, I think all of those teams are going to be better this season. Also, the coaching staff situation is just weird. Obviously, you promote somebody within the system, you get rid of a guy, but we'll see how much of a difference that really makes for them. And taking a look at their schedule here, it doesn't start very good. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, the Broncos, okay, yeah. Bears, I don't even think so. Colts, I mean, when I look at them, I look at their schedule and the record of opponents that from last year was 136 and 153. You think for most teams, Andy, that would be like, okay, yeah, they're going to be off to a pretty good season. The NFL's setting them up for, a pretty good run here. No, they aren't improved off last year. They did not make enough changes last year. And like I said, my biggest pushing point is the teams and people around them in their schedule and division did make those changes. Oh, yeah, not to mention, I threw a prop out a few weeks ago saying I think Davis Mills will lead the league in interceptions. So if he does that, and I'm right about that at a pretty good, I think it was plus 1,000 price, chances are they're not doing very well in the season. So I like the under for the Houston Texans. There's lots of reasons to look at it. You can break down the schedule. I think they start 100% 0-7, and then after that, you kind of you pick your spots here and there. I'm not saying they're going to go winless, but taking a look at those 2 wins being against Jacksonville last year, and I don't think they're going to do that against them again this year. It's going to be a tough road for the Houston Texans. So give me the under, Andy. I'm just absolutely ripping on the bottom tier teams this year on Prop It Up. The Falcons, Texans. And what's great about these, what's great about these is that for all we know, these teams that I'm talking about could end up being good teams against the spread. ATS. They could be teams that piss everybody off every week covering these massive numbers. The good news about me making this wager, I just need them to lose. They could lose every game by 3 points for all I care. Just lose and cash me this ticket.
I think one of my favorite things is how, like, to show how bad a team is, we always just default to the Jacksonville Jaguars. It's just like the only
it's my
time
key example.
They did good was Jacksonville. They really suck.
I mean, it's my key example here. Every when I was looking over this team, Andy, everything that I looked at was just like they sucked besides Jacksonville. They didn't do anything in any games besides against Jacksonville. They didn't put up more than 25 against Jacksonville. So I don't know if that's my example of when they play well and Jacksonville got better than them in the offseason, not looking very good. But what do you guys think about that? Andy, Matt?
Well, I mean, my first thought is I'm not going to get over that Carson Wentz couldn't beat the Jaguars, put the Colts in the playoffs last year. The second is the Colts. I think if I'm remembering correctly, the Colts combined score to beat them in their 2 games was like 62-3. I mean, they really, really struggled against some of these good teams, and I'm with you that I would really like to know what areas they improved in, and I couldn't find any. It's kind of weird because some teams either got worse or got bad. I feel like Houston didn't do anything. It's kind of like they were like, all right, we're perfect right where we are. We don't need to add anybody.
We have Davis Mills. Everything's going to be okay.
Matt, what's your take on the Houston Texans?
I'm glad Andrew's bullying all the teams that can't really defend themselves. This is true Andrew form here to go after the teams that aren't the best. But, I mean, look, the biggest thing for these teams that we're going to talk about today is, when we get towards the end of the season, they could be tanking for a better quarterback. If Davis Mills isn't the answer, which I don't think he is, with C.J. Stroud and Bryce Young and Will Levis and all these guys that are coming out in the draft, we might see some of these teams, make some questionable decisions down the stretch. And you look at Houston, the biggest thing to look at is where do they play the other bad teams on their schedule? And Houston plays at the Giants. Houston plays at the Bears. Houston plays some of these other bad teams on the road, and they play. If you get them at home, then maybe you think they're going to win those games. So, I mean, the only way to go in Houston's under, unless you think that somehow Davis Mills is the answer and that Marlon Mack and Rex Burkhead are the second coming of Christian Okoye and Barry Word, you probably should go the under.
Wow. For the record, I do not, as someone that has watched Marlon Mack, I do not think he's the second coming of anything. All right, Matt, coming to you. You had the very tough choice of picking one of the New York teams, and you settled on the New York Jets. So talk to us about the Jets. What's their team total, and what can we expect?
Well, I mean, obviously, the guy who found the first quarter team total over is going to go to the Jets here, and of course, the Philadelphia guy going with the New York team. But you look, 5.5's the number here, and I'm going to be optimistic. I'm going to buy. I'm going to take the over, and one of the reasons why I'm taking the over here is they get the bad teams at home. You look at the Jets and who they've got. They get the Bears at home. They get the Lions at home. They get the Jaguars at home. I think they're getting at least 2 wins in the division. I think they can split with Miami. I think they can split with New England. I think there's a chance they could even get a game from Buffalo. And if you're giving them 2 or 3 wins in that division, and then you look at those home games against the Lions, the Jaguars, and some of those, and the Bears, that's potentially 3 other wins. And look, the offense could be somewhat legit. They've got decent running backs. The wide receiving room is very intriguing. CJ Uzama at tight end. Their defense is a little shaky, but I think they could score some points here if Zach Wilson focuses on the field. I think this is a Jets team that's got a bunch of talent in certain places. I like their head coach. I like what they have in place. And as I said, once again, they're going to get the bad teams at home this season. They also have some scheduling spots that could come their way. They get the Browns early when Deshaun Watson may not play. That opening game against the Ravens, look, it's funny. The Jets and the Lions are in the same situation, that week 1 game. They get better teams in their building. And week 1, even the bad teams think they can go 17-0. So I think that could be a little bit of a tough game for the Ravens. I think the Jets over 5.5 is the way to go here. I'm a believer in the other green and white team in the NFL.
I gotta say, I think I'm with you. I like the Jets more than I like the Giants as a New York team. So I'm with you. I like the optimism there. Andrew, what do you think about the Jets?
Well, you guys are going to be just waiting on me to take an over, like just waiting to see which team that's bottom of the pack that I think is going to go over. But I don't know if I believe in this team. I like what Matt said about the wide receiver room. I think their defense isn't going to be very good. And if you look at their schedule, I get what you were saying about some of those spots at home and stuff like that. But they didn't really, to me, get that great of a draw. I don't think they have the best strength of schedule this year. They're going to get caught in some different situations, and they're going to have some spots where I'm going to be questioning if they're going to lose, 3-4 in a row. And if that's the case, it's going to be losing confidence for Wilson and the receiving core and the offensive line. If they don't hold up, I'm worried about, the health of Wilson and him, how many times getting sacked per game. So I don't know, Matt, I just want to ask, I understand the home spots there, but really the strength of schedule for this Jets team kind of surprised me this year. I didn't think it was that favorable.
Well, I think I think there's a chance they split with everybody in the division. Other than the Bills, nobody really scares me. I think they can beat the Dolphins at home. I think they can beat the Patriots at home. And that's 2 wins right there. And as I said, if you're going to play the Bears and if you're going to play the Lions and the Jaguars, you want to get them at home. And that's potentially 5 wins there. And I think they sneak up and get somebody else. So that's 6. And once again, kind of like using some of your logic, I just need them to win 6 games. I don't need them to be 10-7. I don't need them to be 8-9, whatever it is. I just need them to be 6-11. And I think there's 6 at least winnable games here. They play the Seahawks, who aren't very good. That's the Geno Smith revenge game against his former team. And look, that week 1 game against the Ravens, if Lamar Jackson's not 100% clicking on all cylinders, they could lose to the Jets very easily in week 1.
Matt, boy, you are right. The Seahawks are not good. That happens to be the team that I selected. Their win total. Yeah, great segue. Their win total is 5.5. So the first thing I do when I'm looking at futures is I go look at the offense and defensive lines. Who can control the line of scrimmage? Are we going into a game knowing that we can't block anybody and we can't put pressure on the opposing quarterback? Or are we going to be able to dominate the running game and we're going to be able to protect the quarterback? So Pro Football Focus has the Seahawks offensive line ranked dead last. This is the worst on paper offensive line in the league. And then I go look at the defensive line, and they have the defensive line ranked 29th out of 32 teams. That's behind the Lions and the Jaguars. So already it looks like every game Seattle is going to go into it and not have a way to really control the offensive line. Their quarterbacks are Geno Smith and Drew Lock. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that's a little bit of a step down from Russell Wilson. And I think Russell Wilson covered up a lot of mistakes with that team. His scrambling and deep ball ability covered up a lot. Their starting running back is injury-prone Rashad Penny, who, by the way, also already has a groin injury in training camp, so we're off and running there. They had the 10th hardest schedule, and obviously we have to look at schedules. And if this is a team that doesn't get off to a good start, the back half of their schedule is absolutely brutal. And Matt, you mentioned potential for tanking. So I think it's more than possible that they could tank. So their first game right out of the gate is they get Russell Wilson in Denver coming to town on a Monday night game. So that should be incredible. Then they got to go at San Francisco. Now, they get the Falcons coming to home. That should be winnable. But, Matt, you mentioned playing bad teams. They have to go to Detroit and to New Orleans. And then this is where the schedule starts to get rough. They got to play Arizona. Then they have to go at Chargers. They do get the Giants at home. But then here is just this is a brutal stretch. So starting on Sunday, November 6th, they got to go at Arizona. The Buccaneers then I believe that's an England game. But then they got Raiders, Rams, Panthers, 49ers, Chiefs. They get the Jets and then the Rams once again. I'm struggling to see how they get to 6 wins. I think they can get to 3 or 4. But I don't expect them to run the table on all the bad teams. So they get Atlanta, Detroit. I think Detroit is much better this year. The Giants and the Jets, maybe they get 2 or 3 out of there. But Geno Smith, I went and looked, and of course, Andrew, do you know what one team Geno Smith beat last year? Jacksonville Jaguars. So that's the
that's the tipping point. That's the achievement of the year.
It really is. So I don't trust Pete Carroll without Russell Wilson. I don't think that they're creative enough on offense to have success with Geno Smith and Drew Lock. That division's brutal. I don't like their schedule. I cannot figure out a way to get to Seattle over 5.5 wins. I'm taking the under, and I think they may be in the sweepstakes towards the end of the season to get a high draft pick to try and draft a quarterback for the future. So, Andrew, thoughts on the Seahawks?
Look, I'm not purposely being the contrarian today, but I guess it makes the show a little more fun. I think, the old saying, like, bet numbers, not teams. I feel like this is just a low number for this team despite losing obviously a very key player. I still think they've got lots of talent. Last year, they were 0 for 5 in games decided between 3 or less points or fewer points. You change that around. You win 1 or 2 of those games this year. Obviously, a little bit of a different roster, of course, but that shakes things up. That changes things. 3 and 5 last year in 1 possession games. Like that type of stuff really mixes up a team and can really change things if you just have 1 or 2 of those games go your way. And they still have lots of talent and lots of weapons offensively. If their defense can hold up, I feel like they can put points up on the board. And I don't know. Look, I'm a Wilson guy. I think he's amazing. I think there's nothing I can say about him it's going to diminish what he does. But I also think that he's somebody that will not connect on a 5 or 10 yard pass 3 times in a row and then throw a 50-yard bomb to DK and everyone's going bananas. So to me, I think that we're going to see, Drew Lock, probably in a little more conservative offense, probably a little more of a safe offense. Lots of weapons, though, that can get yards after catch and probably turn some of these games that are, they're short dogs or short favorites into wins. So that, to me, Andy, it's one of those things where if you look at what their win total was last year towards now, I just think it's a low number for this team. I'm not really a believer in them just kind of absolutely falling off the face of the earth. We'll see what happens.
All right, Andrew's going to hold his nose and get to the window with Seahawks over. Matt, what are your thoughts on the Seahawks of Seattle? Oh, boy.
I really want to know what he's saying, though, Andy.
Yeah.
I said
start over.
It's because I had a bad joke and I muted myself, said the bad joke, and then I came back on, and now I'm just going to go straight to the analysis here. I lean to the under too. I mean, much like Andy looks at the lines, I look at the starting quarterback, and I can't get behind either of those two guys. I mean, look, Drew Lock's got his chances, and Geno Smith's got his chances. And I think this is finally the case where we can actually see if Pete Carroll's a good coach. And I know that's going to be controversial to some people, but Pete Carroll lived off of Russell Wilson. Pete Carroll lived off the Legion of Boom and had all sorts of talent around him. Well, now he's got a lot less talent, and he's in a really tough division. And whereas I think the Jets could split games in their division, I think it's rather unless there's scheduling spots, I could see them only getting 1 win, Seattle, in that division, because you're not going to beat the Rams. You're not going to beat the 49ers. And if you get the Cardinals without DeAndre Hopkins, maybe you have a shot. But if we're not getting wins from our division and Seattle's got all these other games, where are they going to get all these victories from? So I lean to the under here. It's not going to probably make my card, but like I can't back a team on the over with Geno Smith and Drew Lock as their quarterbacks.
All right, there we go. 3 bad teams. We got the Texans, the Jets, and the Seahawks. Great analysis on some of the bottom feeders in the NFL. What a great segment. So, all right, let's talk college
you know what,
football.
Andy? This segment will make it more fun to follow. It'll make it more fun to follow through when we're doing our updates, the 3 of us every Friday. Hey, this team got a win. It'll be a big achievement on the show.
All right, Matt, coming to you. Let's talk some college football. Season is rapidly approaching. I've got a promo code up, but talk to us about some of the research you've done. I know you've got some interesting props and futures for us to look at.
Yeah, so I finally came up with all my win totals, and for those who have not been following me, and I've been retweeting it a lot, my Athlon articles have started to come out. You can go to athlonsports.com, check out my opinions on every college football team, and at the end of the month, I'll start doing my NFL ones. And so I put those out, and then I put my conference title sprinkles out. And why I say sprinkles is because I don't throw a lot on them. It's kind of like a half unit type of bet, and if you get your team to the championship and you're a hedge guy, you could certainly hedge and try and make a profit. Last year, if you did that, I mean, last year I had Houston, they lost in the AAC championship. Last year I had Kent State, they won the MAC championship. And then I also had Western Kentucky, who lost in the Conference USA championship. So at least we've gotten some opportunities here. So these are the teams that I'm kind of looking at for this year. And once again, I kind of emphasize on the sprinkle part. And first up is NC State. I'm ready to buy in. It's funny because if you go on Twitter and you look at the hashtag NC State bleep, SHIT, you'll know why I'm kind of worried here, because every time NC State's one of those teams you want to believe in, they fall short, whether it's injury-wise, whether it's quarterback-wise. I'm ready to believe in them this year. The problem is that they play at Clemson. That could be a huge decider in this division race. But I'm ready at an 8-1 price to back the NC State Wolfpack here. Another team I like is UCF. And if you notice, the 5 teams that I give out, all of them kind of have something in common. A, it's good scheduling spots. B, it's a lot of returning starters. And C, it's a quarterback I want to back. UCF has John Reese Plumlee, who comes over from Ole Miss. And I think Gus Malzahn will do some good things. And UCF's finally got a defense that gets Cincinnati at home. I think they're a good look there. I'll go to NIU in the MAC. That's a team last year that had the best fourth down luck, which I'm kind of worried that they won't be able to replicate. But once again, ton of starters, a manageable schedule, a very nice head coach. I like NIU to win the MAC. Troy, I like to win the Sun Belt. A ton of good starters, a good quarterback. Worried about their schedule a little bit. They do play at 2 of the top teams in the Sun Belt, so that's a little bit of a worry, but I'm going to take a shot here because I like their situation. Then the longest shot is UTEP in Conference USA. 20-1 is what I got it at. UTEP has a ton of good starters back. Their schedule is pretty manageable in Conference USA. And look, they just have to get there. If you're going to take a 20-1 in the conference title to make the conference title game and win it, and you get there, there's a great opportunity to hedge. And I think the Miners were a year early last year. I think they were good last year when they weren't supposed to be. I think they take that next step this year and possibly make it to the Conference USA championship game. So that's my longest shot. I got it 20-1. So I like NC State to win the ACC, UCF to win the AAC, UTEP to win Conference USA, Northern Illinois to win the MAC, and then Troy to win the Sun Belt. And hopefully we get 1 or 2 of those to cash, and we kind of come out of this thing with a profit.
Great stuff. The amount of hours and research you do is spectacular, man. That's really impressive to come up with all those. Good luck on those. And like you said, I think people sometimes mess those futures up. Like you want to set yourself up so you have as much value as possible at the end of the season, so you can guarantee yourself some profit with some hedging opportunities. You don't always have to ride the ticket out. Anytime you can guarantee yourself profit is a good thing. So Matt does a great job at setting himself up to have a lot of options once we get to these tournaments. So great job, Matt. Speaking of great job, Andrew, tennis. 18-2. I wasn't even aware you were on this kind of run until just recently. I saw it on social media. So great job. So talk to us a little about tennis and just how you've been seeing the sport, what's going well for you, and if you got anything for us today.
Yeah, thanks, Andy. Well, first and foremost, I think that you really want to, you talk about research, right? And the amount of hours putting into certain sports and stuff like that. The fact of the matter is, during the winter season, I don't do not much tennis, so the reason why I'm very open with my clients, I'm busy. I've got college stuff going on. I've got, between hoops and now, starting to do college football research. I'm going to jump into that and dabble this year. Of course, I'm all in with the NHL. There's just so much going on. We've got our NFL, the props to go over. It takes a lot of time. So in the summer is where I have a lot more time to go over these tennis wagers and isolate them. And that's kind of when I feel comfortable doing so. So even though I'm not a 365 days a year tennis handicapper, in the summer, I'm dialed in and doing my research and kind of picking my spots. So 18-2 run. And for me, every day you're kind of getting a pick here and there in the WTA and a pick here and there in the ATP. So you're getting a little bit of each. They're playing in Toronto and Montreal, Canada. And the tournament's pretty far underway right now. The U.S. Open's coming up, though. So you can grab a tennis 30-day all-access pass, or you can use the promo code ALLIN30 and get 30 days for $189, which is a great deal there. So getting all the sports that I'm doing, including the CFL, MLB, UFC, so all that good stuff. But Andy, what I wanted to talk about real quick, I'm not sure exactly if we can classify these as props. One of them most certainly is, but the first one I wanted to look at here, the Kyrgios and Hurkacz match today in tennis, taking a look at it here. You look at the over-under sets. Okay, so the over-under sets, the under 2.5 sets, guys, is listed at -200. Well, you take a look at the game bets, so the accumulated games played altogether in the sets that are played here is 24.5. So when I look for value and I look for good numbers, because in tennis, yesterday my best bet was a 4%, was a -190. Occasionally I am, got some juicy plays and it's a little bit steeper price, but I think it's worth it. But with certain situations like this, I think that 80 to 85% of the time when we look at a match like this, I think that if it goes under 2.5 sets, especially with these 3 setters with these type of tournaments, we're going to go under 24.5 games anyway. So I think there's a lot of value at, looking around at different ways that you can get good prices where it's still a similar bet. I wanted to look at the under 2.5 sets in that matchup, but I didn't like the -200. The the under 24.5 games, and tennis, you bet on tennis, Andy, is -115. So I just thought that was a great price and something to bring up to people for just different ways to approach things. At the Pagula match this afternoon, taking a look at it, this one is real interesting to me because you look at the -1.5 sets or the +1.5 sets. These ones are really handy. So a good example today, Pagula at -1.5 sets today. Regular -300 on the money line. The under 2.5 sets is -220. Or you can bet a prop here for her to win 2 sets to 0. So in straight sets, paying -110. So there's different ways in tennis you can approach things. And to me, bankroll management is really important. So obviously, you lose your bet if it goes 2-1. But the under games, no, I don't really want that bet. The under 2.5 sets, no, I don't really want that bet. But just the win, the prop, this specific player to win in straight sets at -110, to me, it's a good way of avoiding these juicy prices and still finding a good way to cash in. So bankroll management to me is very key in tennis. You got to manage your risk, but also finding these cool different ways. And whether it's betting straight sets, whether it's betting +1.5 sets, stuff like that is what I look for when I'm betting tennis.
Tennis is such a great sport because to bet on, especially this time of year, because like you said, there's, a break in a lot of the action, but these tournaments, there are so many games that are going on, which means so many different opportunities, and you don't need to bet all of them. Like you said, just a play here or a play there is such a great way to just add some units here or there to bankroll. You're right. I do bet tennis. We do a lot with the majors, but some of these tournaments, like you said, the ones up in Montreal and stuff, just a play here, play there, and all of a sudden at the end of the week, it's like, wow, I just added 5 or 6 units to the bankroll just with finding the spots. And great job finding those prices, because tennis is one of those sports where sometimes you're almost forced to lay juice. So getting creative with some of the ways to play those is part of the reason why you're on an 18-2 run, Andrew. Congratulations on that. So I'm going to talk a little bit of UFC here. Got a couple ways to do something similar to what Andrew did, and then we're going to get to our best bet. So there's 2 fights on this card. Oh, by the way, we got a 5% UFC play that's up. We're on an 8-1 run in those best bets. So encourage everyone to go get that, or just get a 30-day pass. So the first guy, Josh Kinlan, he's minus 280 against Jason Witt. And instead of taking Kinlan at minus 280 or whatever your book has it at, just look at him by TKO at plus 100. Jason Witt is getting later in his career and just has a glass chin at this point. He's taken a lot of damage, and in his last fight, you saw him just get completely exhausted early in the second round. Jason Witt is a wrestler, but he can't really finish anyone at this stage of his career. And Josh Kinlan's coming off of a win at the Ultimate Fighter, and then unfortunately he tested positive for a banned substance. But he's a knockout artist. He's a knockout specialist. So look for Jason Witt to try and get the wrestling early, but he's going to tire out. Once he gets tired, he leaves his hands down, and he is ripe to be picked apart. So look for Kinlan to get a TKO here, and you can get that at plus 100. The other fight that I really like to get finished is Martin Bidet versus Brzeski. Brzeski, he's coming off of a ultimate or contender series win, and he's just does not have good cardio. He also tested positive for a banned substance. Apparently, that's the way to do it on contender series: is get your win, get your win while you're popped on steroids, and then you already get the contract. What are they going to do? Suspend me for a few months? I still made it in the UFC. Mama, I made it. So Brzeski. Brzeski's not very good. He does not have any cardio, and Bidet is a big guy, and he does have cardio. Bidet is going to push him up against the fence and completely wear him down. And actually, Andrew, if you remember Bidet's last fight, he was beating Chris Barnett up so bad that he broke his rib, and Barnett falls down. Bidet accidentally hits him like in the back of the head, and so they stop the fight. And it goes down as Bidet by decision because they just went to the scorecards. That should have been a knockout, and if that is literally the only win of Bidet's career that is by decision, which it shouldn't have been. So this guy is a finish specialist. You can get him at minus 110 to finish off Brzeski. Brzeski, like I said, once it gets to round 2, he is going to have no gas tank. Bidet is going to have his way with him. So look for Kinlan by TKO, and then look for Bidet inside the distance. I wouldn't play knockout on Bidet. I would play inside the distance because I could see him getting on the back of Brzeski and getting a submission. So just play inside the distance on Bidet and look for Kinlan by TKO. So there's your college football, your tennis, and your UFC wrap up. All right, it is time for the best bet prop of the week. And Matt, I think we're coming to you, right? What you got for us?
Yeah, and I really wanted to play a future that was going to cash in 2028, but you guys told me that wouldn't be right to our listeners and our watchers here, so I decided to play something that will cash pretty quickly, because obviously I have the Kirk Cousins bet in the bank, and when that wins, we'll add to our win streak at the end of the season. I also, we could play another bet, minus 4,000. We'll never see another hologram of Harry Carey again in a Fox broadcast, because that thing was a disaster last night. All right, what will not be a disaster, I kind of mentioned them already, but I'm going to take the over on the Northern Illinois win total this season. We are big Huskies fans here in this apartment. Over 6.5 wins for Northern Illinois, and when you take a look at their schedule, as we talked about last week, when I look at the college football schedules, you break it down into the non-conference and then kind of look at the home games and the road games in conference. Northern Illinois opens up with an FCS school. They play at Tulsa 9 days later. I don't think Tulsa's very good, so I think there's a chance they win both those games. Then they get Vanderbilt at home. And look, Northern Illinois doesn't get a lot of SEC schools at home. They don't get a lot of Power 5 schools at home, and it's Vanderbilt. And so, look, you're probably not going to win that game, but there's still a small chance they do. And if they start out 3-0, I feel really good. Then after that, they play at Kentucky. That's going to be a loss. So 3-1 potentially, or 2-2 in the non-conference. We need 5 wins in the MAC. And you look, they play at Ball State, bad team in Ball State. Then they get Toledo, which is the huge game in the MAC for them at home. They own the Rockets for the most part. So I think they win that game. Eastern Michigan, Ohio on the road. I think they get one of those at least. And then they close out with Central Michigan at home, at Western Michigan, home Miami, Ohio, another big game that they play at home. And then they get the worst team in the conference in Akron. There's plenty of win opportunities here. I think they get at least 7 wins. So give me over 6.5 wins for Northern Illinois in this coming season. I think the Huskies are going to be a very good team in the MAC.
I love it. I think that pretty much makes you 2-0 in futures on on prop of the weeks. I think you can go ahead and cash this one with Kirk Cousins. So nice job, Matt. Matt Joseph's on a 2-0 futures run. So great stuff. Great stuff. All right, everyone. Just a note: we will be off next week. Everyone will be in Vegas, getting ready for the meet and greet. So we're going to take next week off from Prop It Up. Hopefully, you guys can meet us out there in Vegas. If not, just look for all of our posts on social media where you can find all of our plays. You can find everything of Andrew McInnis's at WagerTalk.com on an 18-2 tennis run, 3-1 CFL 5% run. Matt Josephs is at SportsMemo.com. Go ahead and use his promo code CFB200 to get discount on the full season of college football. He's already got a 5% play up. And then for myself, I am at WagerTalk.com. You can use a promo code WIN150 to get $150 off a 30-day pass. I got a 4% baseball play up, UFC, golf, all that stuff. We're number one handicapper since March 1st on WagerTalk. So, all right, guys, great job. Let's have a profitable weekend. Let's hope Andrew continues that amazing run in tennis. Let's win some money on UFC, and let's get ready for college football season. The future looks bright. Thanks, everybody, for joining us, and we will see everyone in 2 weeks on another edition of Prop It Up.
Ready to take your favorite WagerTalk handicappers wherever you travel this football season? The WagerTalk TV app is now live for phones, tablets, smart TVs, and streaming platforms. Tune into your favorite shows like WagerTalk Today, Bet On It, and the Opening Line Report. Plus, browse through our extensive library of sports betting tips. Create your personal playlist of betting tip videos to help you prepare for the upcoming season, and set notifications to alert you when new content is added. Download the app for Apple, Android, Amazon, and Roku devices by searching for WagerTalk TV, or scan the QR code on your screen to join the winning conversation today.